including one team out of the SEC. Not a team that a lot of people saw coming out, but it's the Ole Miss Rebels that will represent the conference. 2 wins away from a national championship. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. And Patrick, we'll dive into a lot of these specifics here in a while, but I will say this on the front end, and I'll tell everybody this on the front end, that you had Ole Miss going deep on your bracket, and that has now definitely come now to fruition. We have our final 4 teams left. What is, at this point in your eyes, the biggest shocker to you through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs?
Miami,
yeah.
you know
that
Morgan Wallen song that just came out over the summer. But
yeah,
I was astonished at what happened on Wednesday night as I was going over to New Orleans.
Uh-huh.
You know, I threw the game on. I was like, yeah, I'm expecting Ohio State to win. I think I had the final score of Ohio State was going to win 28-7.
Right.
Because I felt like, now I will say, I had my doubts about Ohio State, and I aired them on this program. I fully expressed, I was like, all right, I really do like Julian Sayin, but I don't think this is the year for him just yet.
Yeah.
He's a little bit too young. The offense was a little bit suspect at times.
Uh-huh.
And what do you know? I mean, it showed up in the game against Miami. I think that pick 6 in the first half kind of solidified the game, and I was like, oh, man, like, Ohio State's in trouble already.
Yeah.
I thought Ole Miss was going to give them trouble, but now Ole Miss gets Miami, which you can't even look over that. But can we just admit that it is so refreshing to see a team not named Alabama, not named Georgia, not named Michigan, not named Ohio State in the Final Four?
And this is the first time in the playoff era, since the playoff went to 4 teams and then now to 12 teams, the first time that none of the schools that you mentioned are in the championship hunt. It is refreshing, and there is a lot of SEC. There's a lot of representation from different parts of the country. You have the West Coast represented. You have the Southeast represented as well. Different blood. You have the Big Ten represented by a completely different school than the one that's dominated over the last few years. We've had intriguing games, compelling games, and even some surprising games here in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, and the Final 4 teams are now moving on. And Happy New Year to you and yours as well. Here is the bracket as you see it. If you're looking at it just from a straight chalk perspective, right? Let's just say everything went chalk. Everything went by the seeding. Last year was a little bit difficult because I think the teams were kind of misseeded. The committee really corrected itself this year. If you're taking it by the seeds, one team that is the number 1 seed, the Indiana Hoosiers, are the one team that is moving on. And they were the first team to get the bye and move on there after their big win over Bama.
You know, I almost have to – we have to start having this conversation of do these teams get too much time off? And I think that they do. But at the same time – I don't know if taking it away from these New Year's 6 bowl sites is the correct move, because these are such prestigious bowls.
Sure.
They help the local economies.
Right.
I think once the playoff inevitably expands, we're going to have the regular season start a week earlier.
Right.
And then instead of that first round game, there's going to be another round before it. I think inevitably it's going to get into the 20s, maybe even 30s with the amount of teams. I don't really expect it to get up to 30 anytime soon. But I think at some point we need to start having this conversation of, you can't just give these teams 25, 26 days off and expect them to still be the same. I mean, Indiana is kind of an anomaly at this point, because 1-7 last year, all 4 teams lost. This year, 3 of them lost.
Yes.
And one that looked, honestly, putrid in my opinion was Texas Tech.
Yes.
0 points against
points.
Oregon in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, and this is the same Oregon defense that gave up 34 the week before to James Madison. James Madison walked up and down the field, so you have to worry about the rest versus rust situation there with a team like Texas Tech. And then you also mentioned Ohio State not being able to get the full offensive route going. And then to your point, I think the more that the conference championship games get diminished, it feels like a wasted week right there. So can you just scoot everything up a week and be able to get the playoffs in started earlier? I think that's probably where this whole thing goes, and I'm with you. I think that it expands, and the more that it expands, you just don't want to have your top teams having so much time between their last game and then their first game with the games that really mattered there in the playoffs. You were in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl. That's the first one we'll dive into, because this is a on paper, it was a great matchup. The second matchup in this thing where it was SEC versus SEC. Of course, we had Alabama, Oklahoma in the first round, Ole Miss and Georgia, and another situation where it was a rematch game. And you've said it all season. It's hard to beat a team twice in the year, especially in this conference.
Before we talk about this game, before we dive into the craziness and arguably one of the greatest college football games ever, let's go back to what we said on this program last week. Take a listen. I'm looking at these two quarterbacks. I don't know. I almost want to say Trinidad's the better quarterback. Like, is that crazy to say?
No, it's not crazy to say at all. I don't think it's crazy to say at all. And I think that you mentioned this. Had he played a full season, given his production,
he's a Heisman winner.
Exactly. He's in the final game. Ole Miss and Georgia.
Give me Hotty Toddy. Give me the Ole Miss Rebels. I'll see them in person. Trinidad Chambliss throws for 300 yards and runs for a couple touchdowns.
You have a great time at the game, but your bracket will officially be busted. I like the Georgia Bulldogs to be able to get the win.
Whoa, what was that? Georgia Bulldogs getting the win. My bracket is busted. I don't think so.
My final show of 2025 was not a good one. I took a shot at your bracket. I was like, you know what? I thought at the time that Georgia would go the same route as they did in the SEC championship game. They played good enough defense to be able to win. Yes, you called it right there, literally right there on the head. And I think that what it also says to me is that this team is completely and fully and wholly bought in to Pete Golding, to Charlie Weiss, to what, like, every single thing that anybody who thought, myself included, you would lose with Lane Kiffin. You not only have not lost it with Lane Kiffin now in Baton Rouge, this team has rallied even more and even further, and it has helped them out, and now they're 2 wins away from a championship.
Well, I almost think that these players at the time when Lane Kiffin ended up packing his bags and heading to Baton Rouge thought, hey, this guy just quit on us to go to another SEC school. Now, it's one thing if he was like John Summerall and at an American school where, it's just the level of competition isn't the same as the SEC.
And it's understood by all parties that was the case.
The fact that you left your school to head to your school's rival down there in Baton Rouge in the midst of the best season in program history, just there are so many question marks about it. And everyone was like, all these players are just going to follow him. I don't think so. I've been saying I don't think as many players are going to follow him to Baton Rouge as some people might think, because I think Xavier Harris said it great. This guy literally quit on us, and he ended up, I think, having like 11 tackles. He was just an absolute menace for them on the D-line. And I think I brought up that Georgia had to run the ball effectively against Ole Miss in order to win the game, because that was the one thing that Ole Miss didn't really do well this season.
Right.
And there was like 2 drives, I think, in the second quarter where it was Nate Frazier was just having his way. And I'm sitting there like, man, Ole Miss, they got to start stacking the box or something, because this is going to get out of hand quickly.
Right.
And then after that second quarter, I think they shut him down pretty well. And my goodness, Trinidad Chambliss had
unbelievable.
If you weren't listening to both of us earlier in the season when we said that after he took over the starting role for Austin Simmons, well, let this game show you exactly what you were missing out. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible what he was doing in this game.
Yeah, he was, and it led Ole Miss to a 27-13 rout in the second half. And he did it with his arms and he did it with his legs. There you see the special teams also got it done. But the thing about Trinidad Chambliss, I think what you noticed at the beginning when he came in, like you said, for Austin Simmons, you noticed the talent off the jump. The very first thing you noticed, and I'm pretty sure that was some of the things that stood out to Lane Kiffin and the staff when they recruited him out of Ferris State. The talent was there. But now you're adding that with the leadership component, and he's playing well in all these big games, and he doesn't make the same mistake twice. So I think that those are the biggest things, that he is just stacking good days, good plays, good series on top of good days, good plays, good series. And next thing you know, the good games are now stacking up there as well. And it just feels like the sky's the limit. To your point earlier about the LSU players the Ole Miss players probably being a little miffed. If you're sitting there in Ole Miss, you're like, we're 2 wins away. We just beat one of the perennial powers of this whole conference, of this whole playoff bracket. There's nothing that we can do at LSU that is below what we're doing right now. And so you don't see LSU as some gaudy program that you might have had you been playing football not even 5 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you would have just considered them at a higher level. I just think, yes, higher level in the sense of like, hey, they have more championships, the pedigree's there, but as far as the production on the field, no, it's not.
I think Pete Golding replicates something to these players. I mean, he just represents them so well at this university. And we've talked about Lane Kiffin, and we talked about how potentially he's a different person now at Oxford. He was very outspoken at SEC Media Days when we were there about how much he loves Oxford and everything.
Right.
But the history was always there. The next shiny toy, he's going to be like, oh, let me go take that.
Yep.
And who knows? LSU is the stopping point right now. But what happens if Kalen DeBoer doesn't work out at Alabama?
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin's got connections there. I mean, obviously he's very close with Nick Saban.
Right.
And Nick Saban eventually, I know there was the stop at Miami in between.
Right.
But eventually went from LSU to Alabama. So you don't know with a guy like him.
Right.
But Pete Golding, so down to earth, is going to go to war for his guys. But I think you bring up something with Trinidad that we're starting to see around college football. And that's to have a good quarterback on your team, you almost have to go in the transfer portal now.
Yes.
You look at Fernando Mendoza, who won the Heisman. You look at Trinidad Chambliss, who I still think if he played a full season, especially after, I mean, his Heisman moment, unfortunately, was after the trophy was already given out. Right. If he had a full season, he wins it with ease, in my opinion.
Carson Beck.
I mean, the list goes on, and I think it just proves that, hey, if you can go and be a proven leader, even at a lower level, it's going to catch the attention of some of the head coaches in the SEC, in the Big Ten, because they want proven guys that are proven leaders, not really these freshman quarterbacks coming out of high school that you don't know their leadership capabilities.
Exactly. Yeah, you're just basically just judging it based on potential instead of what they've already done, no matter what level it's on. Trinidad Chambliss, of course, started his career at Ferris State, and we talked about it when they played Georgia to begin with in the regular season, the fact that he played in front of more people at Ferris State combined than he had before he went between the hedges and played there in Athens. Now he is 2 wins away from a national championship. We heard from him after the game.
My emotion right now is crazy right now. Really speechless, honestly, about everything because, it was that same point. We were down 9, or they were down 9 last time we played them, so it was kind of like roles reversed. Then obviously, played them before. I didn't play my best in the fourth quarter, so I wanted to redeem myself and, get back again. So honestly, just trusting my guys. Our coaches put us in a great position, and we executed.
We'll talk a little bit more about Trinidad Chambliss and the latest news that is out today on him and what might happen going into next year in 2026. But let's turn the attention to Georgia for a little bit. Obviously, this is a Georgia team that looked really good in the SEC championship game, and then, didn't look great in the second half. Looked good in the first half, but did not look great in the second half. I know this year, if you're just looking at records, wins and losses on paper, this will look like another great year. But it's got to sting for Kirby and company to be once again really close and lose to a team that you beat in the regular season.
Well, and then I think if you're Kirby Smart and Gunnar Stockton, you have to think that New Orleans is cursed because the second straight year that you've lost in the Sugar Bowl, and second straight year you've lost in the college football playoff quarterfinal, and you finish, you won the SEC championship again, but you basically have nothing to show for it. Because I know that guy, Kirby Smart, has championship aspirations because he's won it back-to-back before.
Exactly.
But it feels like another year where I do have to give Georgia credit because coming into the year, we didn't really know what to expect. I mean, Carson Beck had literally just left. We saw one full game out of Gunnar Stockton. He had his moments where he looked like he could be the guy for the future.
Right.
And then he had some other moments where I was like, man, you just don't know. But I don't remember if I said this to you off or on the air. It's just Georgia this year, to me, didn't have that elite component of their game that really stood out to me and made me think, hey, they're national contenders. They're good at everything, great at nothing.
Exactly. And the things that were the old staples for the Georgia teams were like just dominating defense and or great running game and or, great guys on the outside. It just felt like you said, they were above average in every category, even the quarterback, but elite they weren't elite at anything enough to keep them in the hunt long term. And I'm right there with you. I don't think that there was anything that they could have done, in my opinion. Even if they had beat Ole Miss, I still wouldn't like them against Indiana right now. I still wouldn't like them against Oregon right now. Even Miami is playing really well right now, and Miami is using their calling card on defense.
I mean, you look at these 4 remaining teams. Oregon, elite offense. Ole Miss, elite offense. Indiana, elite everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's just absolutely unreal the
Yeah.
way they dismantled Alabama.
Yeah.
And then, who am I?
And then
forgetting?
Miami.
And then Miami got Ruben Bain on the edge there. He's going to be a threat.
That D-line is insane.
That D-line is literally insane. It's going to prove to be a massive challenge for Ole Miss as they head into this game. But I think across the board, all of these teams stack up better than Georgia. Georgia just had the experience from the coaching. And honestly, you know, before we head to break here, there were some questionable coaching decisions, especially going for it on 4th down in your own half with like 10 minutes left that led to a 2-play drive for a touchdown.
Right.
I mean, Kirby, he went for the fake punt. They converted it. It just felt like he was just trying to push the envelope just a little bit more until, like Dan Campbell in the NFL, just tried it too much and it just didn't work.
Right, and he might have been doing that to overcompensate for, because he did not have an elite